All right, checking in, making sure, just make sure everybody can hear me before we get rolling. You guys in, you hear me loud and clear? I hope. Unmute, or yeah, there we go.
We can.
Got it. All right, thanks, Juan. Let's see, we should be recording. Here we go. And okay. So today is kind of, this is our group call. This is our mastermind. This is where you guys get to come together as a group, talk about what's really happening in your world. I mean, I'll throw some topics on the table, some things to spur activity if I need to, unless there's like something, whatever's like you think overshadowing or overseeing your business, and it might be a challenge or you're running into some challenges. Here's what I found, that most of us are experiencing the same thing. And there's probably several people on the call that could have said the same exact thing that you're sharing. So the purpose of these group calls is not to take our one-on-one time. Our one-on-one time is you specifically, where you are in your business, how we're applying some of the things that we talk about like today, or that are going on in your business, or just, I mean, personal challenges that are conflicting with your business challenges. That's our real one-on-one time where you want that set aside. Hopefully you're not in your car. I mean, this is about you. You've got me for that half an hour just focused on you and where you are. And I bring those coaching skills and everything that I've learned from a couple certifications and everything just to help direct and help find that fire, find the implementation plan that will work for each of you, and all of your personalities are different. Today's call is about the more general topics that are going on in like some specific things, or it can also be just the freaking fun ideas. Like if you just want to come up with some fun idea to have fun again, and throw in, whether it's client appreciation parties, whether it's a realtor event, whether you're doing, you know, the AMAs and getting a better attendance, getting a better appointment ratio afterwards. That's the kind of stuff we want to talk about here. So by us being together as a group, we can talk about some of those topics. Somebody may have had success doing one thing, another person's had success doing another. So you guys get to share and collaborate and learn from each other on that. So this is really just kind of an open call to start. I will open it up first if there's anything that anyone came to the call and was hoping that you would get from today's call, or anything you'd like to see show up on today's call. And then I will throw out some additional ideas on how to make it through, how to make your business basically recession proof or market proof, where as we go through the different markets, how you can start having control over your business and being able to have a predictable, dependable flow of contracts and closings. So I've got all kinds of stuff I can cover on that. And that might not even be just a one call, that might be multiple calls. But I'm going to open it up first. If there's anybody that has anything that's really showing up, prevailing in your market, seems to be a huge challenge, and you're taking stabs at it and just not having success. How is business? What is happening out there in your guys' world? What's going on? How's the market? How's the transactions? Are they up? Are they down? Are they non-existent? What's your biggest things that you're dealing with out there?
I'll go ahead and step in here, and I apologize for not being on video, but I am still in my pajamas. So I'm just gonna
That's all right.
I have had some great success in getting applications in, but most of them are jumbo, and KeyBank is just crushing it here in the Pacific Northwest. And I've lost probably 6 jumbo purchases in the last week and a half, which I understand, you know, that's just how it goes. So I'm trying to pivot and target more like non-QM, or, you know, something that is not jumbo, right? So does anybody else experience that same thing?
I think our jumbo pricing is kind of off from where it was like a month ago, but Karen, I'm also in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Oregon, and our branch manager did a call earlier in the week with Union Bank, and that may work as like a good second, because their rates are amazing, like so competitive that it might help in that
That's great
arena.
feedback. So,
But I can share that information with you if you'd like.
yeah, so is Union somebody that we can broker to? Because I thought
Yep.
that they got out of the,
Yep.
All right, so you might even throw that in the chat box too. That way everybody can see that there, and or if you guys are interested in that, definitely throw that in the chat box that you would like to get that information. Yeah, see, that's awesome. Love it already. There you go. That's actually perfect.
So that, yeah, my branch manager out of the Lake Oswego office has worked with Michelle for like 20 years back in other capacities. And yeah, we did a call with her and she's awesome and she'll go through anything. And they are approved for broker.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes, the issue I'm having currently is, or I'm getting beat out by On Point, but it's on our ARM products are really tough. And so our ARM pricing is not great. And then like you, not Union, On Point is offering 5 arms. So adjusting every 5 years, which are pretty comfortable for people. And so I'm kind of running into that and trying to figure out if what we can do to save the deal and make sense and go either through the Union Bank channel if it's something that we don't have because they do 40-year and interest only. And so I might be able to spin it in a way, but it's just having, I think as a whole, probably having the product availability. And it seems like leadership is or management, I guess, is doing the best they can to try to create new things and have it come out. It's just, I don't want to lose deals along the way.
Anybody else dealing with arms, or how often are they showing up? How many, past apps and stuff are you processing that is showing up in? Is it just kind of here and there a little bit, or are they starting to show up more and more, or what?
I think it's starting to become a topic of conversation for people. They're reading about it online. They're thinking, okay, well, if rates are supposed to, if everybody's saying they're going to come back down once, I watched the whole Barry Habib thing, but I'm trying to put it into words. If they're going to come back down and then they still want to buy something, then they're like, okay, well, I still need to buy because appreciation is a real thing. But then I want to be, I know I'm going to refinance or sell in 5 years. Or 3 years or 7 years or whatever, that the 30-year fixed is decent, but if they know they're going to do something, then, those credit unions are going to the mat with fantastic rates on that kind of stuff.
So is anybody else having arms show up in your conversations yet?
Yeah. I try to do it. I try to sell it like, people sell life insurance. They say that if you're selling life insurance, you got to kill the husband like 5 or the breadwinner like 5 or 6 times in the conversation to make the sale. So like for me, when somebody brings up arms, I'm like, oh man, well, what happens if Bob or Sue can't go to work in 5 years, or for whatever reason you can't sell or you can't refinance and your payment goes up $500 a month? Is that something that you'd be comfortable with? And then they usually, some people are dead set on it. And
how are you?
They're going to be dead set on it no matter what. You know what I mean? Who's on the phone?
Sorry, I had somebody in the background. I got her.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. That's how I do it. I just, are you comfortable with it being the worst case scenario in 5 years?
That's awesome. I hope you guys wrote that down, because it is one of those things where as all the different products are coming out, and I know Patrick we'll deal with Patrick Burdick's comment here in just a minute about finding houses, but it is like being shopped. That's a big thing. As rates are going up, everybody feels like everybody's rate shopping. I am going to tell you, there's a lot of things that we think are happening in the world that actually are not real. It's just what we think in our head and what we think is going on. So that's the fun part about being on the other side of the fence. When I coach and work with a lot of you, and I'm not saying that it's not happening, I'm just going to say out of 50 realtors, one person might be telling their client, maybe 2 or 3 people, agent wise would be telling their clients to go rate shop, at least if they're, and I put this in perspective because either they're new and they don't know any better, and that's going to be 50 to 80% of the realtors that are out there. And of the 20% top agents that you're trying to get business from or working with, they don't have time to think about that. And that's why I say there's probably 1 or 2 out of maybe 20 or 30 or 50 realtors that their brain is that, C personality, which C personalities, you guys, does anybody not understand DISC completely? Or does everybody understand the DISC personalities? You take the DISC test when you come to movement, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's not totally understanding them, but I'll give you a quick overview of what I mean by that. So D is dominant, direct. They want to get right to the point. Whenever you see a D personality, sometimes they come across as a total D-wad. That's what I'll call it, an ass. Yeah. Like if people don't like you and they think you're just short and rude, you're probably got a lot of D in you, because you just want stuff to happen. You want to get it done, no fluff. If you're a high D personality, you're sitting in my trainings, you're like, all right, come on, just get to it. Because there's a little bit of fluff and stories in there, right? So you just got to hang through that stuff. You got the I personality, which I'm the perfect example of an I personality, very outgoing. If you go to a party, it's the influencer, or they want to be the center of attention, or when they're at a party, they'll talk to everybody at the party. They'll bounce around. Everybody's their best friend. So that's an I personality. So they're the flamboyant, kind of fun. They like pictures and explaining stories and things like that. The S is stability, security. So they're like your mother hen, kind of, is the best way to put it. They look out for people. They're checking on people. Like usually if you have somebody in your office that's like helping the newer people that come in, they're going to have a higher S personality. There's a lot more compassion. Like if something's not getting done, it's like, what can we do to fix it? Right. And then the C personality is your compliant. They're the checklist people. They're a lot of you have high C's. If you find yourself jumping into the transaction and doing all the stuff in behind the scenes, you kind of feel like you need to be there to make sure it gets done right. You got a higher C than some other people may have. So of the DISC, there's probably 5% of the population are Ds and 5% of the population are Cs. And the rest of them, we're talking 90% of the population is an I and an S. Security, or they're outgoing and friendly and all that other stuff. So when that stuff happens in there, there's probably more D personality real estate agents today due to Keller Williams, like teaching people to run their business like a business. And I'm not saying that because I'm at KW or anything. I'm just saying I've never seen so many D personalities in real estate as I have at Keller Williams, because they're running things like a business. More of them are holding things accountable and that kind of stuff. But that C personality is still it's kind of your nerdy bean counter. And not that you guys are nerdy and bean counters if you're C's, but there's not that many real estate agents out there. So a lot of times if it's coming up in a conversation, or what you think is happening is that your realtors are having you rate shopped, I always say, ask them if they've even asked that question. And I'm telling you, there's probably 1 or 2 out of 50 that maybe will say yes. And that's usually the first one you ask. However, and that's where most people get their story from. If you asked 100 realtors if they tell their clients to rate shop, they do not. They just don't do it. It's not real. So that's my take and my opinion and what I've noticed. And that's coaching just as many, thousands of real estate agents along the years too, along with coaching loan officers as well. So, and I don't know if anybody has anything different, that a different opinion of that's been validated by what you've done or that you've shared, or is that good information to know?
Good information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still relationships business. I think it is and always will be. So I love what you said. I probably had in my entire mortgage business, maybe a handful of people in the past, 5 to 7 years that have actually shopped and maybe went with another lender because of that reason. I've had people leave for other reasons. Maybe we just didn't click well. Maybe there was something relationally that they just didn't feel comfortable with. But generally, not just firing me over an 8% on an interest rate, which amounts to maybe $8 a month, or $7 a month. So, when they see like, hey, my service is worth more than, the $7 a month you might be saving with this other lender, put that into perspective. And I don't think you're going to lose them to another lender, but it happens. I mean, everybody here has experienced it. I agree 100% with, what Anna was saying. Adjustable rates are starting to come up in conversation because people are seeing, those news headlines and things like that. But if you just kind of zoom out and look from a historical perspective, rates aren't, they're bad, but they're not that bad. I mean, we were here 4 years ago and we were still doing a ton of refinances 4 years ago. The housing market was still booming 4 years ago. And people were in the, mid to high fours in their interest rates. And so historically, we're still at low interest rates. People are just still trying to get over the payment shock of where we've been the past couple of years, which has just been absurdly low. So, that's my feedback on that.
Yeah, no, and Preston, I know in our conversations, I can totally pick up that you are really, really heavy relationship based, and not saying that anybody else isn't. There's several of you that are. And when we have all these conversations about, I'm being rate shopped. What do I say? How do I get them to not do that? There really isn't like some magic script that somebody figured out these words that just turns them into a zombie and they're like hypnotized and okay, I will not rate shop. There's not one. A lot of people like this. What's the text I should send? What's the email subject line I should send? There is no, I've been doing this 30 years. If there was a subject line that would get everybody to click and do business with me, I would have figured it out and I would have shared it with everyone. I might have even sold it, who knows? But no, I would have shared it with everybody. There isn't one. There's not one that works. So when you talk about relationships, Preston, what I want everybody and all of you that do relationships and you're focused on that, it's I would say turn it up about 2 more notches. And when you say the word relationship, like how connected are you with that relationship? Because I will tell you, if you just focus on this one thing and focus on it with your 6 top agents, and you move that notch up about 2 more notches, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. But when you get that relationship just a little stronger with those 6 agents, and you actually did ask them, do you have your clients look around? Because we do think that real estate agents are told they're supposed to give 3 sources. The only people giving 3 sources are the brand new agent that walked out of real estate school and walked in and they're like, what do I do? Right? The second they do 2 or 3 deals, they're not giving 3 out anymore. They're like, because they had 1 go bad, 2 go bad. Now they found somebody that actually did it. Whoever is the first one to make that one go smooth gets the next one. And as long as that goes pretty smooth, they get the next one. And then they're their loan officer, right? The other thing I will tell you is that for the most part in statistic wise speaking, is that another story that is, I'm telling you, it's not real, is that they already have a loan officer that they trust and use. It's not easy to break a relationship that's already there, but most of them have not done more than 1 or 2 deals a month and or 1 or 2 deals a month every other month or every 3 months. The average realtor is selling 6 to 10, maybe 12 homes a year. They don't have a loan officer yet. That is representative of at least, the first 50% are doing nothing. They're doing 2 or 3 deals a year. The next 30% of the top 50% are probably doing that 10 or 12. And then it starts, the gap just keeps getting bigger where you'll have a nice group of agents that are doing, 15 to 30 deals a year. And then it kind of jumps up to that 40 to 70, 60, 70 deals a year. And then it jumps up to your big monster teams. So most people do not have somebody that they're relying on because they're closing less than 1 or 2 a month. You haven't built a strong enough relationship yet. They're just going to the most convenient person that popped in the top of their head. So when I say crank it up, the relationship notch up 2 notches. If you were even to go into Domo and look at where you guys can see in Domo, it says who your top realtors are and how many deals they brought you, right? You guys have that on your version of Domo?
What's that card called, Brad? Because I'm still learning Domo. I'm newish here.
Well, I just get it from the main dashboard. I actually get a different view than you guys do. So I'm not sure if somebody else knows where, like when it shows how many locks you have and all that other stuff, it shows down towards the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
bottom. It just shows your agents, who's come in from buyer side and who's come in from listing side, right? So I think that's on the dashboard on mine. Does anybody else know if that's where it shows up on yours?
It's like the funded loan counts.
Yeah, it's even goes down below that. It's towards the bottom of the screen. It'll actually have the agent's name listed and how many deals they've submitted for you. Let me see if I can pull it up on my screen here and I'll show you. And actually, I mean, this might be good because this is why I love this kind of stuff, because my screen may be totally different than what your guys's is. Oh, my session expired. Don't you love that?
Love it.
Come on. Now I gotta go back in, get my little password, all that fun stuff. So what I'll talk about, what I was saying about extending the relationship and turning it up a couple of notches. If you were to look, so once we show you where this is, if we were to look at your top 5 or 6 realtors, here's a quick kind of check just to see how in tune you are with your agents. How many kids do they have? Do they have pets? Do they like dogs? Do they like cats? You know, those kind of questions. Do you know where they live, like where their house is and stuff? Because real estate agents are pretty transparent and we have access to like tax records and all that other stuff that you can look people up and see things. Hold on. Talking and typing passwords does not work.
I found top buyer's agent's card.
What's that?
I found a top buyer's agent card.
Top buyer agent card. Yeah. And then it'd be the top listing agent card as well. And I'll share my screen with you guys too, so you can see. So I'll go into Domo and who wants me to pull up their Domo card? Dang, nobody came forward on that one. That's scary.
I wish I could say I've actually logged into Domo before, so I'm doing it right now.
Here we go. There's our marketing splash. Okay, no, I can show you without doing that. I'll be nice to y'all. But we're going to change that to where all of you say, me, you can show mine. I got Coach Corn. Okay, let me go to my stop share here and I'm going to share again and we'll go to, I think it's this screen. All right. So are you guys seeing my Domo card now? Is that what's showing up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So down here, so you got basically the regions, the funded, the locked, created, you got your conversion rates, and then right below that, top buyer's agent and top selling agent. So this is your crew who has done some deals with you that are tagged through the system. And I believe if you guys are in your Domo, you get to see kind of the same thing, right? Not quite the same thing, but do you see that on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So those are the agents I'm talking about. So in this case, Stephen Cooley, if he sent me a deal just without even doing anything, do I even know how many kids Stephen has? Like it's time, he's done a deal. So moving that relationship up a couple of notches is just to go Google Stephen Cooley, pull it up, scroll through his thing. And I know some people have a problem with this creeper style attitude, but it's cool that we have gone social media where everybody has access to it and they're posting stuff for everyone to see. So it's not like you're creeping on them because they've made it public, but there are a couple of things. Well, first of all, let me stop there. How many of you are doing this at that level, or you're like, wow, I really do need to probably take it up a notch and really get plugged into just knowing a little bit more about them?
I don't know. I drink pretty heavily with mine on the regular.
Yeah, you're going to know a whole lot of stuff on the drinking days. In fact, when you get to that stage, you are in that. I mean, and you probably get about all their loans. I'd almost say 100% of the loans if you go drinking with them often, right? So that's how my loan officer, he's not a movement guy. And in fact, I'm coaching movement people, even local in Kansas City. And I've challenged them to go, man, just hammer me. Like, you think you're bugging an agent? I want to get to the point where you're like that. But my guy is an independent dude, and we drink all the time. He invites me out for shooting guns and skeet, and he's in my weekly network group. So he's in front of me all the time, always calling. The other thing that's really cool, and I know this, sometimes you just have to figure out how this works in your business, but the ones that have always gotten my business, and again, I'm that guy that's selling 100 homes a year in your market. So if you were going to win me over, it's probably going to take you about 2 years. So what is your 2-year plan for your big agent that you want to get? Yeah, if I could just have 2 or 3 agents that do 40, 50 sales a year, okay, you need about a 2-year plan to work your way into where you are top of mind when they think of you, and you're showing up everywhere during that 2 years, not by email, not by text, but showing up in my office a few times a year, showing up at the events that I'm at. You're on purpose, just kind of bumping into them. Hey, how's it going? Look, I saw something look like you won some award. You know, it's like, oh yeah, top real. It's like, oh, that's awesome. You know, just doing that stuff for 2 years before you might break in and get that business. And I've probably had 5 really LOs that I use for a long period of time, 3, 4, 5 years, and they get 90% of our business. And it took them years to get in. And they had it until they got comfortable or complacent. And what I mean by that is Sean will always pick up his phone when I call. The other guy that was before him always picked up his phone. It was like he had a bat phone or something. And honestly, I'm not even the ego realtor. I'm just like, I get blown away that, you know, it's just Brad Korn. But to him, my Bank of America dude before him was like, you put me over the top. I've been trying to take out for the #1 spot at Bank of America for years. And I'm sitting on this side going, I mean, I probably processed 60 loans through you. How did that put you at the top at Bank of America? And it can be just that 50, 60, 70 deals to bump you up above a lot of people, or move you into the next presidential club, or, you know, all that stuff, going on better trips. So anyway, go ahead. Anybody got something to throw in?
I was just going to say real quick, one of the common misconceptions that I've believed, even recently, in the past 7 days, I've met with 15 new agents, just really trying to crank through, get back to what I was doing when I first started, and meeting with those new agents. And you think that loan officers are hitting them up all the time, you know, trying to take them out for coffee. You know, I've always thought, oh my gosh, real estate agents have, you know, ADD like crazy. You know, you'll build that relationship, but then it's like, you got to be careful, because that next new shiny object could call them up for coffee, and then boom, you've lost them. So I thought that these agents were getting contacted all the time, you know, by other loan officers. But just in the past week, I've talked to every one of these agents, and no one is calling them. They're like, wow, Preston, like, you've called me and invited me out for coffee. You know, I haven't had anybody call me in 2 years, you know, to take me out for coffee. I don't know if that was because of the pandemic. I don't know what the deal was, but, you know, just calling those agents and setting up those belly-to-belly, face-to-face appointments. I thought I was just going to be one of a million other loan officers, but it's turned out I'm not. Nobody else is doing it right now.
Yeah. Well, so you just hit on something. What it is your first one in. Like right now, what's happening is everybody is still using the pandemic as an excuse to not have to pick up the phone and call people. And here's what I hear all the time. Yeah, they're just not ready yet. They're just not, you know, how many of you are like basketball, watched a little bit of the Final Four and like basketball or any of that? I'm not a big basketball fan, but Kansas took it down in one of the best games I've ever watched in basketball. That street, I mean, Lawrence, Kansas was flooded. I mean, they were hanging on top of each other. If you saw any of the footage, people want to be back out. And it does seem like that all that stuff's going on the wayside. I'm not saying if you personally are cautious of it, that's fine. You can still do that. However, you just triggered something on me, and this is where I like to spin ideas off of that. So when you said that, Preston, about having coffee, they want to get back out and meet people. And I think that's probably what I just heard you say was that piece right there. Like if there's probably a magazine in your market. What is it, like Top Agent, or anybody know what that is? The really fancy real estate agent magazine?
Real producers?
Real Producers. Real Producers are really good about setting up events once a month or once a quarter, and they pick some posh place, and they're getting at least here, they're getting a great turnout of real estate agents. They do a lot of marketing for that. Man, if you can tag into that, and you're going to be able to mingle with a lot of realtors there. But when you were saying that, Preston, it kind of made me think, and I want to spin this off on you guys too, on what you might hear out of this. But what if that coffee turns into, man, have you been wanting to get back in front of your clients with some kind of small event, maybe a client appreciation get together or a movie night or something like that? And I mean, if I was going to invest any money into sponsoring something, if it's somebody that's meeting me for coffee that's excited about that and says, yeah, nobody's called, I'd love to go have coffee there. You can flip that around and say, now, how about with your clients? How have you been able to stay in touch with them? It's like, oh, I need to do that more often. I probably need to do some coffees with some of them. Well, let's do a adrenaline shot and do some kind of event like a movie night or something like that, where you can get in front of a bunch of them at once, and I'll help you coordinate it. You don't even have to commit to pay for it. I mean, I know it is, there's another story that I see, and this is coaching loan officers for years and years and years. It's like, it's almost expected that if the open door is, well, what could I pay for? What could we co-op on to get this relationship started? And I think if you guys hear it the other way around, you crank that relationship notch up a couple, they weren't even expecting that. But it's like, and if they are expecting it, they don't do any business and they don't pay back what you invested. They're looking for the next sucker to come in and pay for their event. Brokers do this all the time. Now, they don't do it on purpose and they don't do it maliciously. But what also does not happen, whenever you partner up with a real estate company, nobody's tracking the ROI on it. It's like, if I'm giving you $500 a month for this, I should probably get about $5,000 a month back in loans. And if that doesn't happen, then they're not working together. They're just looking for somebody to foot the bill. But when you're in relationship with somebody and you know a little bit more about them, you cranked it up a notch or two, that does not need to be your open conversation. It could totally be, in this case, what if we sit down and let's figure out a plan to coordinate and get your clients together for some kind of event. I don't know what kind of budget you have, but we'll look at how we can do this together, and I'll help you get back in touch with your clients. Heck, it could be as simple as they just give you a list of all their past clients, and you're going to call and invite them out to a happy hour, and you guys are going to split the cost. I mean, so in that world and in those stories that we're talking about today, just know they don't expect that all the time. That's what gets thrown on the table in front, right up on the front side. And it's like, well, hell yeah, I'll do an event if you're going to pay for it. And then they have no invested interest in whether it pays off or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how many of you have seen that happen? You've either been a part of that or you've seen it happen before, right? Going into a market. So one of the things I coach on is, if you ever get a relationship where you're inside an office, there's specific things you need to do to make sure you get those relationships. Now, if you can't get in the office because there's another loan officer that's in there, let alone another officer that's been in there for a long time, I can show you how to take that business over one agent at a time and end up owning that entire office with a very on-purpose plan, that if you have 2 or 3 people in there that like you and trust you, that you can start spreading that by going and having coffee and say, hey, bring 1 or 2 of your friends in the office that are sharp like you. I'd love to introduce them, see if I can help them grow their business and all that other stuff. Well, then those 2 people, you're saying, hey, bring a couple people you like, and it doesn't matter if somebody's in-house. So that's why there's 2 there. If you are in-house, well, the good news is nobody's having this other conversation with any loan officer. So nobody's probably going to take it away from you, but don't take it for granted, right? Because the guy that's been in-house in our offices is the one that lost it to the other guys, because they stayed in touch for 2 years and they got complacent and they didn't have the bat phone. and we weren't able to we always had to leave messages, and they were just busy, too busy. So this person easily grabbed it. So if you're in-house, you need to make sure you're protecting that. But if you're not in-house and you can't get in there, I don't even think you need to get in there. I don't even think you need the commitment for the expense. You can just start with 1 or 2 agents, but it's about being very on purpose on this relationship building follow-up plan to take over the relationship, crank that up a couple notches, learn more about them than anybody else is. And I think Preston said it best, is that they really appreciate somebody who's actually paying attention to them, right? Anybody, anything to add on that? Anything that you guys have done where you feel like you strengthened your relationship, or really have scored, new relationships with real estate agents, and what did you do to do that?
Like recently?
Yeah.
Oh man. Recently I feel like I'm on that, like I'm doing the best that I can, being upfront with trying to get back out in front of people again, right? Like it is hard to get back into the game. Here in New York, we were pretty much shut-ins for 2 years. So it's hard getting back in that game, but I'm making sure that I have at least 3 or 4 face-to-faces every week with people and keeping myself on that game plan. New stuff, people are just happy to get out now. So I don't even think it's not even hard to get people to want to sit with you. So
Yeah.
but
Well,
you
that's
don't even
great
have
to
to get
hear.
creative. You're just like, hey, coffee, sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
mhm.
I do know a real estate agent that took out a restaurant. They had like a little booth, and he would start there at 11 o'clock for lunch, and he'd sit there till 5 o'clock, and he called it stacking. So he basically stacked his appointments every 30 minutes. So he would just take 1 day a week and meet with like 6 or 8 people every week. And he did it 2 or 3 days a week. But that's the core piece, is getting those relationships, and you're picking up referrals from that much of a on purpose plan and he met with everybody once a month and they came to him. So another way to think about that. But I think so far I've heard from 2 people so far that it's easy to get the appointments. So now, how many new relationships do you want, and how many are you going to set as your goal and bump it up a notch? Start getting those, because it is a little bit, it's easier than it has been over the last 2 years.
I've also just found that I had been, one of my shortcomings has always been a reluctancy to just get on the phone with some random stranger I've never met and call them and invite them for coffee. So just kind of that cold introduction, I've just never been a fan of it. So I just decided to delegate that piece. I have a friend in the industry, and I pay him. I say, hey, every face-to-face you set with a realtor, I'll give you this much in a bonus. And he's excited. I mean, he's making probably 20 phone calls a day right now, just calling realtors, has no shame. And then once he gets someone to buy it or say, they're interested, then I'm kind of excited at that point to pick up the phone, call that person, introduce myself, confirm the meeting, and then go from there. So just kind of delegating that piece has been really helpful for me the past couple of weeks, where I know that I've been so reluctant to just get on the phones myself.
So do you know what he's saying when he calls them, how he's starting the conversation? Have you given him a script, or is he making it up and figuring out what works?
Yeah, I tried to work out a script for him. That's the thing. I mean, I definitely am much better on the phone, but I and probably would confirm more appointments if I was doing it. He's 20 years old, young, just been licensed himself, so he's kind of learning that. So he's kind of awkward and doesn't have the best things to say. But I mean, again, it's working out just because, like we talked about, and like Anna just said too. You just ask somebody to go get coffee, and more or less they're like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. So I just basically tell them, hey, keep it simple, straight to the point. I'd love to meet with you, talk about how we can help you grow your business. And that's it, so.
All right. So this is what's cool about masterminds. Do you know what his script he's using right now? And would you feel comfortable sharing it?
Do I know what script he's using?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So he's kind of winging it. He doesn't have a written script or anything.
He's winging it. I sent him a script, and he kind of uses it from time to time, but he's just said he's not very comfortable using a script. And
Yeah,
know?
yeah. So he's making it his own, but what was the gist
Exactly.
of the script? What was the gist of the script that you started him with?
It was very, very simple. You know, hey, I'm a junior loan officer working with my senior loan officer, Preston. We'd love to sit down and have coffee with you and talk about how we can help you grow your business this year. And if they're interested, then I typically will say, okay, that sounds great. What works best for you, Monday or Tuesday? So we kind of nail them down to 2 days rather than saying, hey, what day next week? And then they're like, oh, let me flip to my schedule. I don't, you know, we just say Monday or Tuesday, which works better for you. And then they'll look at those 2 specific days and they'll say, well, okay, Tuesday's better. Okay, morning or afternoon, morning. And then, you know, we set the appointment from there. So it's just simple to the point, maybe a 2-minute phone call at most, and then build a relationship during the appointment itself.
So do you know exactly to like, do you track really close how many dials he's made, how many he's gotten on the phone, and how many appointments you've made?
I've tracked how many appointments we've made, but I've not tracked how many dials he's made now.
Gotcha. So guys, when you do that, so how many appointments has he made in what time frame?
Probably 25 appointments in the past 2 weeks.
So how many of you would be okay with 15 appointments in the next 2 weeks?
God, I like need to take a nap just thinking about that.
Well, and so, yeah, I'm so glad you said that, honestly, because the appointments are where that is the money making activity. And what we got to peel apart here too is what's not allowing that, what makes that feel stressful and tiring is the other stuff that we're doing, but that is not the stuff that's generating new income to the bottom line. All that's doing is protecting what you've already gotten, right? And so a mind shift a little bit. It's the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do every day generates 80% of your results, right? And 80% of what you do every day generates 20% results. From a financial perspective, if you're behind on your business a little bit, the bank account's not quite as fat as it was last year, think of it this way. 20% of actually what physical activity that you did yesterday generated 80% of your income, right? Which means that 80% of what you did yesterday, whether it has to get done or not get done, or somebody else could do it or they can't do it, whatever, it doesn't matter. But 80% of what you did yesterday generated 20% of that income. So if you want to get your 20% of your income bigger, you have to do the 20% stuff even 40% of the day. And that kind of comes back to where when we figure this stuff out on our one-on-one call, where I'm just going to use the extreme example. There's not an extra hour in the day for me to go meet any realtor at all, because I've got to make sure these files get closed. We've had our busiest month ever. These have to get closed and I have to, you know, make it happen. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, so that's the 80% stuff that's generating 20% of the income, or just protecting what you've already made. And now you're making it come through, but you're not adding any new. What can be systematized in this 80%? What, there's got to be a way to streamline it somewhere. And the best way I can put it is, if you're feeling that pressure, like I just don't have time to go out and meet them, because that meeting a realtor is going to pick up at least 3 to 4 deals a year. If they're brand new in real estate, you could help them take that to 10 or 20 pretty easy. Or it's going to be an extra 10, 20, 30, 40 transactions a year, depending on how much of your business you get. And as you tweak that relationship notch up 2 more notches, that's where you'll start getting 100% of their business. So I'll come back to that for a second. The 80% stuff, it's where you start tracking. And I have a lot of you do this, where you grab a notebook and just write down everything that bogs you down in the day. Like if you feel like it's taking you off track and taking you away from what you were planning on doing for the day, and or you're in something and it's really something anybody else could do if you had an unlimited checkbook. If your market leader came to you and said, here's a blank check, hire whoever you need to hire to get everything off your plate so you could go meet new realtors, what are those things that would be the first thing you would give off? And when you put it into that perspective, then you can start seeing what you're doing that somebody else could or should be doing someday. It doesn't mean you're giving it up tomorrow. And it definitely doesn't mean your market leader is going to show up with a blank checkbook. So don't tell them I said that. I didn't say they were going to do that. What you're doing is you're acknowledging what's keeping you from doing the 20% stuff, which for you, it is. And actually, we just talked about this on our coaching call today. Don't forget about financial planners. In this world, in this market, with everybody getting the equity that they've got. And I mean, it's weird to say it's a weird economy and all this crazy stuff and people aren't working, but more people have more money than they've ever had before. And the financial planners are getting called a lot more often on what are they going to do with this equity? Should we buy another house? And I've had that showing up in conversations when they're selling their house. We need to talk to our financial planner to see if we should put 5, 10, or 20% down. And so those guys are gold mines right now if you don't have them in your roster of relationships. But it is about streamlining as much of that stuff that bogs you down from doing it so you can free up a little time on your calendar. I will also say it's not just people. I believe, me personally, I believe it's a system first before it's people, because people are people. People are freaking nuts. I mean, if you guys have hired and fired people on your team or watched people come in and then go away, people are nuts. I mean, they're crazy. They're not reliable. They want to stay home one day. The kid's sick. The dog's this, the dog's that. So if you can streamline your business to be systematized, and when I say this, if this is like, God, he's saying something, I don't know what it is, but I need that. That's what we're going to figure out on our coaching call, our one-on-ones, which, by the way, if you don't have your one-on-one scheduled, you either send me an email so I can send you the time so we get that next one on for this month. Calls are the next 2 weeks, second and third week of the month. And if you don't have one called and you don't send me an email, you're going to get a message from me so we can get you back on the calendar. But we'll work on those systems and what that really looks like in your world and what's more important to get you into dollar productive activities. Is this good stuff so far? I want to make sure these are super, super valuable calls for you. And it is more of just the ideas and transit or systems and steps and maybe processes to do. And then what you do is you bring this to the call and go, all right, something you said on that call or something somebody else said, I want to get more coffees. I need more coffee appointments. Great. That's what we're going to work on, is a plan to make sure we get you more coffees. So I would challenge you, Preston, and then I'll shut up for a second. Preston, I would challenge you to go back through and track, like, to get your ROI, like track how many dials to how many people answered to how many appointments were set. And I say this because I just looked up a study that it was on cold calling, and Baylor University did it. And Keller Williams, Gary Keller, started a research department or funds a research department at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. I think that's where it is, Waco. And they did a study where they took 50 agents and put them in a room, and it was a controlled like experiment. And they had 50 agents call for an hour a day for 2 weeks, and they just cold called. And they made like 6,000. I had my notes in front of me, but I must have moved them. Oh, here it is. They made 6,264 calls. They got 1,774 people to answer the phone. Did you hear that? I mean, 6,000 dials to get 1,700 people to answer the phone. And they booked 19 appointments from those 1,774 calls. So it was like a 330-to-1 ratio. That was just random, flat, cold calling, all that stuff. So you got to have big numbers if you want to get your appointments that way. But I would track that back only for this reason, Preston. For you specifically, it would be, I would want to know if he did 100 dials to get 30 people to answer the phone to get 25 appointments. Then we know that from 30 answers to 25 appointments, the kid is closing. Or if it's, 200 dials to 100 answers to 25 appointments, maybe there's one word we can change in the script, or he starts, like what I would say is he'd record himself so you can hear what he's saying. And then it's just, he could still be casual, but you might say something like just changing one word, right? In that whole thing might just change the outcome. And all of a sudden he gets 40 or 50 appointments per 100. Then you're onto a script. So the way I'll give you a specific example, and you can share this with your real estate agents. And anytime I share stuff like this, it's something that if you threw this out at one of your real estate agents and one of your appointments, they'll be like, that's genius. That's an awesome script. So when getting addresses from like leads, internet leads, or anything that might be coming in, getting their phone number and their address versus just an email so that they can connect with them more. It's like, hey, listen, you're calling on XYZ Street. You were on a website. Chances are there's probably a bunch of properties on there that were already sold by the time you called, right? So you say you're working way too hard. I can actually put you on our instant notification program, which for a real estate agent, that's the MLS system, right? You know, in the MLS, they can actually put a search in, save it, and it will automatically send properties from the MLS that match that buyer's criteria to the buyer, and it sends it automatically. So automating their system, you can say, I have an instant notification program that will actually notify you of the newest listing the second it hits the market. You will be one of the first people to even know about it in the community. Because it's coming from MLS, it doesn't get to realtor.com or Trulia or all those other ones, Zillow, until it hits start on the MLS, and then that feeds to everything else. So if you can have a conversation around your realtors, it's like, hey, you want to convert more of your internet leads. Maybe it's just tweaking the script, like what, and do what I just did with Preston. It's like, what are you saying to them when they answer the phone? Let's you and I mastermind on this. Let's figure out a script that works. So you got this, you're working way too hard. I can put you on our instant notification program for free. And you can actually get the listings the minute they come on the market, the second they go live. You'll literally be one of the first people to drive by this property in the market. So all I need is I'll go ahead and pull up a list of the old ones, the ones that maybe are available, maybe they're just overpriced. Well, I'm just going to print those out. Where would I send those to? And again, this is a script that has been tweaked over the years that I'm going to tell you that when you master this, or when the agents master this, you will get the address like 99% of the time, because they're so caught up in this instant notification program, and it's free and you're the first one to know about it. And they're like caught up in the conversation. And then I say, so I'll just print off the first list because it's probably just overpriced or old listings and stuff's wrong with them, but I'll just drop that in the mail to you. Where would I mail it to? You mean my mailing address? Because they snapped out of this excitement. They're like, oh, you mean like my mailing address? Yeah. They don't even have time to think about it, and they just give it to you. I'm telling you, I get it day in and day out, every day. And then I say, now what's the best number to reach you at if there's a really good deal? If it's a steal of a deal and I need to get a hold of you, what's the best number? Well, let me give you my cell phone. Okay, do you have any other numbers? Right? And then you get down to, now, do you check email pretty much do you check email often? Oh, every day. It's like, I can even email you all this stuff to you. And they're like, oh, that'd be perfect. So I never really print and mail anything. So anyway, that's just like, and it took tweaking those words to get down to the instant notification, free, first one by the market, and all that, and printing the list that we finally figured out the script that got name and address 99% of the time. So track your stuff from dials to answers to actual appointments. And then you can start looking in there to go, okay, maybe we need to do something on the dials, or maybe we need to do something from the dials to appointments. And then you start getting a bigger bang for your buck on what you're paying them. So it's thinking of it like an ROI in business. So I know Patrick brought up, a lot of pre-approvals and no houses out there. I'm going to resend, along with this recording, the one from last month where we talked about how you can help your agents go back into the MLS 5 to 10 years back, pull up expired or sold from 5 to 10 years ago in a 5-mile radius of where they currently where the buyers are currently looking. So these are your clients too. So you can even have a conversation. Where are you guys looking? What area? Blah, blah, blah. So you can come back to the realtor and you could even say, I'm going to work real close with your real estate agent. We're going to find you a house that you're not going to have to compete so much for or go $100,000 over. We're going to try and find you the best deal we can. So knowing what area they're in, then you can call the realtor and say, NAR says people move within 5 to 10 miles of where they're looking or they currently live. The clients that we're working with are in this area and they're looking here. What if you went back? Could you pull up MLS and go back 5 to 10 years ago, pull up all the sales that match the ideal house they want, and then just look through the history and see if those people are still living in the house. Make sure they haven't sold it since then. And then let's sit down with that list. It's going to be a list of about 10 to 15 homes. It's going to originally be a list of about 60, 70, 80, 100 homes. Every time I do this, it's a big list. you'll narrow it down to probably 10 or 15 homes out of a big list that are people that are still in the house. They've been there 5 to 10 years, which means they're starting to think about, they've been talking about moving. It's come up somewhere in their life, and side conversation at dinner, when do you, this house is getting be a little bit too much, whatever it might be, that would be your on target list. That imagine this, guys, if you're a real estate agent actually went and did cold calling, I would want to cold call those 15 homes before I just called through a street, because I've increased my odds of them thinking of moving and being ready to move. But what's going to happen is they're going to plant a seed. And if you plant enough seeds and they get 1 or 2 of those sellers to let them come show the house to your guys' buyers and their buyers, right? They're not competing. And I'm literally putting their dream home in the search when I do it this way, so that we've got a list of their dream homes. And then we might show them 2 or 3 of those, and they can only buy one. But however many other contacts I made are potential listings that are coming up, because now those people are thinking about it all the time. And if your realtor stays in touch with them and builds that relationship. So Patrick, to your question, it's sharing, getting that coffee appointment, critical. Second thing is, once that relationships get there, I'm not talking about having this conversation with some new realtor you just met. It's got to be somebody that you got a little bit of a relationship with. Your trust factor is going to go from wherever you are now, a 2, 3, 4, 5 to a 7, 8, 9, 10. Or validity factor, trust factor, like factor, right? Unless you're with like Anna and you're having beers with them, that's the best way to get to 10. Get to me through my beer, baby. So having fun with them will also do that, but you'll get instant credibility and bump up that chart a little more. All right, so we covered a lot of stuff today. We're actually right at the end of the hour too. Any last comments, questions, anything before we shut her down? I do have another hard stop with another webinar right behind you guys with some real estate agents, by the way. Anybody in New Jersey, send me an email. I don't know if I have any New Jersey people. All right, any last comments, questions, anything?
It was good information to know that the majority of people are IS. Like, cause I'm a high DI, I have like no SC. So like, I find most people very frustrating and slow.
Oh, the ICs dominate 90%, and the poor DCs of the world are just freaking
Dying.
bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Anyway,
Yeah,
thank you guys.
Yep. In our world, Gary Keller is known as the biggest asshole to all the other real estate companies because he's high D. He'll call things what it is. So, all right, guys, great call. Hopefully you liked it. I'll send you the recording so you can listen to it again. Thanks for all your participation, you guys.
See y'all.